What's up, guys? Thanks as always for supporting the show. It would mean a lot to me if you would take a second to scroll down and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any more of our videos. Also, make sure you follow us all over social media so you don't miss any of our content or show announcements. All right, Celtics, Knicks. I wanted to update you guys on a stat. I talked about the difference in the shot quality in game one versus game two. In game one, the Celtics in the second half took 26 guarded catch and shoots and off the dribble jump shots. They took only 15 in the second half of game two. And I thought most of them were really good looks, even the, especially the off the dribble ones that they got. Derek White, absolutely clean look at an off the dribble three off of the left wing. Missed it. Jalen Brown, right at the top of the key, missed it. There were some really clean looks in there. I thought overall their shot selection was better. But in this particular video, I'm going to be focusing on, some of the ways that Boston's inability to shoot was becoming a problem for their ability to capitalize on the natural openings in New York's defense. And then two, Jalen Brunson and the job that he did on defense, as well as Mitchell Robinson on the final sequence of possessions. So this is the example of the pick and pop three that happened late. Now, Horford had just gotten a wide open look out of the right corner here, and he missed it, but it was a clean look. As I just mentioned in our Thunder Nuggets video, when you run a traditional drop of any sort against a pick and pop, it's going to be wide open every single time. So let's watch what happens. Horford screen, Cat's in the somewhat high drop. On the sequence, Horford's wide open on the pick and pop. This is the type of natural opening that is going to exist within Boston's offense against this coverage against New York. This is a shot you have to take, and he just doesn't take it because he's, just like every other Celtic, completely lost confidence in his ability to knock down jump shots. He drives into Cat, and again, this isn't a bad look by any means, but this is a play where Cat's going to be much more impactful defensively than he was in that drop coverage. So that pick and pop three, you got to take that. Again, when it comes to Boston, I want Tatum and Brown to be working to generate shots closer to the basket so that they can draw more attention, so that they can generate clean catch and shoots. But the pathway forward for Boston isn't stop taking wide open catch and shoot threes. It's stop taking the bad ones and then work earlier in the clock to try to get good ones first. Jalen Brunson on defense. I thought this was an excellent possession. Watch the way he navigates the screen first. Guard action. Switched on to Derek White. Now they're going to bring Tatum up. Watch how he fights through the first screen. Gets over the top. They rescreen. Gets caught by that one. So now his next job is get inside position to prevent Tatum from having an inside seal. He fights and gets that inside position. Look at the work he does to fight Tatum physically to stop him from getting a catch deeper down here. He's literally hitting him like a football sled to fight him into the catch further away from the basket. And then right here, I get Tatum's read. I understand what he's thinking. He's thinking, Josh Hart's in the gap. Josh Hart's in the gap. Therefore, I just take this easy kick out to Derek White. But there's 7 seconds on the shot clock. I'd love to see Tatum at least try to back down Brunson a little bit more, because what you get is a semi-contested three, right? Watch. Kick to Derek White. Hart gets a decent contest, and it's a little bit more rushed, right? If you take this and you back him down for an extra dribble or two, you might pull this guy in further. You might pull this guy in further, and it might be a very clean catch and shoot where Derek White can really feel comfortable going into that shot. I thought that was just a little bit of a lazy play from Jayson Tatum. But good work from Brunson. Brunson, again, when you're talking about that work defensively, Jalen Brunson knows he can't guard Jayson Tatum necessarily, but what he can do is he can keep him in front. And by doing that work to get that inside position, fighting him further out. And then, in game one in particular, he had a couple of stops where he positioned himself in front of Tatum. So Tatum had to knock down a shot over the top instead of going through him. And you're going to see some examples later on in the video of him doing the exact same thing to Jaylen Brown. This next clip is a botched coverage, a botched hedge and recover sequence between Cat and Brunson. So Cat and Brunson end up guarding the action. And as you guys can see, Brunson goes hedge. They're going to rescreen here. Brunson goes hedge and Cat goes switch. And so because they're not on the same page, there's a wide open three for Jalen Brunson here. But even if this was like a well defended hedge and recover, there's always a gap between the hedge and recover and the defender coming back. Because typically what Cat would do here is as Brunson's hedging, let's call this OG Anunoby. Let's pretend this is OG. OG's going to duck under this pick and try to pick Jaylen Brown up on the other side of the screen. But the only way he's going to be able to do that is by leaving a gap between when Brunson leaves and when OG recovers, right? Or in this case, Cat recovers. So even though this one is particularly wide open, this is a shot that would be open against this coverage just with a late closeout from the guy coming underneath the screen. So once again, the hedge and recover has these natural openings, not to mention Derek White could slip out of it typically and get open. He just doesn't because Cat switches. But these natural openings that are appearing in these coverages, Boston is not making them pay for it. And that is putting them in the bad position of like, oh, we can't even capitalize on the normal stuff we've been cooking New York with every single game this season. Just that shot's not going in. The shot's not going in right now for the Celtics. One other thing I'll say, this is not Horford. This is a top tier athlete in this league. Why not drive? There's 9 on the shot clock. Why not just get downhill into the teeth of the defense? You might generate a wide open catch and shoot three for for Drew Holiday here in the left corner. You might force Mitchell Robinson to step up, and then Mikal Bridges might have to dig down on Horford, and you might generate a wide open catch and shoot for Tatum. You know, there's at least there's enough time on the clock to at least see if New York makes a defensive mistake. But again, I don't hate that shot. Again, that's a wide open shot. I'm just saying, like, that's an example specifically with Tatum and Brown, where if they were more reliable generating easy twos, that would be an advantage. Here is another successful hedge and recover from Jalen Brunson. Gets out on the hedge. Look at what the hedge makes Tatum do. Look at how this step. See how he uses his left foot? Watch how Tatum has to use his left foot to plant and go backwards with his momentum. That's what the hedge accomplishes. Drew's trying to screen OG. That gives OG an opportunity to recover and get back into position. He does. Drew Holiday is in this like in this pop here, but Jalen Brunson's in the passing lane. That's one of the things that you'll see like Tyrese Halliburton in particular do an amazing job of on his hedge and recovers is like he'll hedge, and as he's getting out, he'll be really high with his hands in that passing lane to make it so that the pass to the slipping shooter is just not open. And then one-on-one against OG, like these one-on-ones, Tatum's not beating him off the dribble. He's taking really tough over-the-top jump shots. And if they go in, great. But if not, you know, there's nothing they can do. How about Jalen Brunson getting a couple stops on an island against Jaylen Brown? This is a tough one, too. Look at how Drew Holiday's screening. We're going to show a couple examples of this where the screening angles can change the drive. Drew Holiday's trying to screen on this like right side of the ball handler, right? That puts Brunson in the position. Look at where Brunson goes. Look at where Brunson had to lunge because he thinks Jaylen Brown's coming that way. Next thing you know, the screen is rejected. Watch the job Brunson does recovering and beating him to his spot here. Like that recovery athleticism with his foot speed. Boom. I can't beat him over here, but I can beat him over here. And he gets to that elbow. Now all of a sudden it's a straight ISO against a switch. And what's Jalen Brunson's job? He can't physically hang with Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown's going to be able to bully him to something closer at the basket, but at the very least, you stay in front, you wall up, and you make him make something over the top of you, and that's what he does. Keeps himself in front, makes Jaylen Brown, and again, that's a makeable shot. But my point is Jalen Brunson is doing the best he possibly can. And again, he cuts him off twice there too, right? Hard drive to the left, bump, spin back, bump. Look at how Jaylen Brown's chest is consistently squared up with Jalen Brunson's chest is consistently squared up with that shoulder for Jaylen Brown so that he can't ever turn the corner. Really good defense from Jalen Brunson. And then again, by doing the switch thing, and this is why I've been a proponent of them switching instead of hedging and recovering. Although, right again, I talked about this last night. Some of these hedges and drops are working because Boston is just decomposing as a jump shooting team. But if you switch, you run the at least the possibility of them doing something stupid and settling. Here, Jalen Brown's got Brunson on a switch with 13 seconds on the shot clock, and this is the shot he gets. Starts with him containing the drive, though, right? Beats him to the spot, and then Jalen Brown's just going to take this stupid ass pull up. This is one of the bad shots that Boston take. They didn't take too many bad shots down the stretch, but that was one of them. But yeah, 2 big stops on an island against Jalen Brown. It's a huge deal. Now, this is one of the buckets that one of the fouls that Tatum drew late in the game. This is an example similar to what we talked about earlier of flipping the screening angle. So watch how Al Horford runs up on OG Anunoby's left side. And because he's running up on OG Anunoby's left side, you can actually see Cat in his pick and roll coverage preparing to cover that side of the screen. But then watch Horford right at the last second. Look at how he's faking like he's going to screen. Look at how his shoulders are set. Horford's shoulders are set in a way that it looks like Tatum's going to come off the screen this way, right? But if you watch, right at the last second, Horford goes, nope, screen in the other side. And look at Cat. Cat comes up to the point where his left foot is all the way up here at the level of the screen on the left side of the screen. But I should say left side of the actual defender. But because Horford flips the angle, now Tatum's going the other way. That puts Cat in the position now he has to move his big body this way aggressively to make it to that spot. Now look at his shoulders. His shoulders are completely turned. His hips are completely turned. That makes a very easy crossover to snake the pick and roll from Tatum. Snakes it. Cat's now dead to rights. He has no choice but to foul Tatum at the rim. Now, let's take a look at what succeeded for Boston on this sequence, and then we'll talk about the adjustment. OG Anunoby backpedaling, dealing with Tatum almost around half court. Horford comes up and sets a screen. Now Tatum's got a full head of steam against Mitchell Robinson about 10, 15 feet in front of him, and this is just too difficult to guard somebody in that type of situation. So I want you guys to see the adjustment. So Joe Mazzulla makes a bet. He goes, well, we just got Tatum a dunk by letting him run the length of the floor. So let's not burn this timeout. Let's let him run the length of the floor, and New York won't be set in their defense. Huge difference. Look where OG is. OG just got burned because he got screened out here. And it created this massive runway that Tatum could attack. The adjustment is OG makes no attempt to pick Tatum up that far. They know the Horford screen is coming because it just worked. Look at how they're sandwiching Horford. Mitchell Robinson is leaning on that right-handed drive for Tatum, and OG Anunoby's leaning on that left-handed drive for Tatum. And if you watch them, they both just kind of sit on Horford. Look at this. They're doing it from the start of the possession. They're just sitting on Horford on either shoulder, basically being like, if he goes that way, you get him. If he goes that way, I'll get him. It's just like like they're just waiting for that drive angle, and they're waiting further back instead of wiping out OG Anunoby at half court and making it a one-on-one with a runway. Now it's a one-on-two with a runway, and these two guys only have to worry about one direction. One guy having to worry about both directions with a head of steam is much harder than two guys each having to deal with just one direction drive while Tatum is like second guessing and not getting as much of a head of steam, right? So he gets going, now his momentum's gone. Just the two of them being situated on both sides of the screener caused Tatum to hesitate. Now all of a sudden he's lost all his momentum. He should have just picked a direction and gone, but it is what it is. Then they decide to switch. Okay. So now that Tatum's lost his momentum, they trust Mitchell Robinson to be able to do the job. So Mitchell kind of gets a little out of position reaching, but he's still in the play. Tatum crossover gets Mitchell's stance open. Now he's got a driving angle. Mitch quickly turns his hips and makes a very similar move to what we talked about with Brunson. He wants to beat Tatum to a spot further back. This is where Tatum lost his control here. If he would have maintained his handle, he just lost control of the ball a little bit. If he would have maintained his handle, his dribble got wide. If he would have maintained his handle, he would have had a decent look at like a mid-range pull-up, like a little step back in here. But continues to turn. This is where it gets smart again with OG. OG is reading the whole play. He sees Mitch is a little bit out of position. So he peels off a Horford to pick up Tatum, and watch what Mitch does. Mitch switches into a box out of Horford. So OG is able to make it so that Tatum couldn't get into an easy little fading jump shot there. He has to go wild with the one-leg fadeaway. And then the finish of the play, Mikal Bridges peels off of Jalen Brown and double teams and attacks the passing angle. Tatum reads it, sees Brown open, but look at the pressure. Again, it's a lot easier to put two on the ball with active hands. Because even if this pass gets through, it's probably deflected. It's probably looping. It buys Mitchell Robinson a chance to bail out and close out. Gets the deflection, forces the turnover. We're going the other way. So some really smart defensive stuff from the Knicks down the stretch of that game. I wanted to make sure that they were properly highlighted. Again, it's not all Celtics decomposing. It's a combination of that and the Knicks playing some really good basketball. All right, guys, that's all I have for today. As always, I sincerely appreciate you guys for supporting me and supporting the show. We will be live on YouTube after Game 2 of the Warriors-Wolves game tonight. I will see you guys then.